You know, there's this one thing. You can't touch it. You can't see it. But it can hit you like a storm. And that thing is loneliness. It doesn't knock. It doesn't ask permission. But one fine morning, you wake up, and there it is, sitting heavy on your chest. That empty feeling, no one sees it, no one knows it. But you feel it. Every minute, every second. And I get it. Not because I read about it in a book, not because someone told me, but because I've lived with it. Day in, day out, night after night. Loneliness isn't just a passing sadness. At times, for me, it felt like a wound, deep and raw. But one day, I stepped out of it. No one came to pull me up. I did that myself. And today, I want to share that with you. Because if you're sitting in that cold, silent space right now, I just want you to know one thing. You're not alone. Now, for some people, loneliness might not seem like a big deal. But for others, it's heavy. It's exhausting. I've seen it. I've heard it. And I've felt it firsthand. If they could, most people would try to keep loneliness under control. Like, sure, being alone from time to time is okay. But not too much. Not enough to mess with your life. Not enough to eat you alive. So today, I want us to talk about something real. How do we deal with loneliness? And yeah, I'm calling it a sickness. I know that might sound a bit dramatic or even subjective, but I'm using that word to highlight something important. It's a problem, and problems are meant to be treated. We fix them so our lives can be better. That's all I mean when I say loneliness is a sickness. Now, before we go any further, let me ask, do I even have the right to talk about this? Kind of funny, right? Bringing up the right to talk about loneliness. It sounds so formal, like I'm applying for some fancy award or something. But loneliness? Most people hear that word and want to turn away. They don't even want to think about it, let alone talk about it. So yeah, it's ironic to say I have the right to speak on this topic. But you know what? I'm going to say it anyway, because I do understand it. I've been through it, and that counts for something. So let me just go ahead and nominate myself here, because when it comes to loneliness, I've earned not just one, but two reasons to talk about it. Reason one, I was a victim. Reason two, I got through it. Let me start with the second one. If I told you right now, I'm not lonely anymore, would you believe me? Because I'm not. I really don't feel lonely anymore. And even if I do, it's so little, so faint, I barely notice it. It doesn't affect me. It doesn't hurt me. Would you believe that? I think your belief matters, because honestly, I have no proof, just my word. So I hope you trust me for a moment when I say this with total honesty. I'm not lonely anymore. Or if I am, it's so light, it just fades into the background. Sounds unbelievable, right? Honestly, if I didn't know myself, I probably wouldn't believe it either. I get it if you're skeptical. Like, is this guy just saying stuff to sound strong? Is he pretending? Is he lying? I've had those thoughts too. But all I can say is, I'm being real with you. This is my truth. And no, this didn't happen by accident. I wasn't born with some magical immunity to loneliness. Far from it. In fact, I probably said the word lonely more than most people ever do. I've been close friends with loneliness. Which brings me back to reason one. I was a victim. I've lived with loneliness. It was my shadow, my constant companion. There were times when no one believed in me. No one stood by me. It was just me and me. And that kind of loneliness, it's brutal. You crave a kind word, but no one says anything. You hope for a helping hand, but none ever reaches out. You wish someone would simply be there, but no one is. And sometimes you just want to lay there and give up. You don't even want to try anymore. So yeah, that level of loneliness I went through, it wasn't just a today I feel lonely, tomorrow I'll sleep it off and be fine kind of thing. No. The kind of loneliness I experienced, it was heavy. It was intense. It was crippling. And to this day, I still remember exactly how that felt. I consider it a real, serious issue in my life. Not some poetic little friendly companion. Yeah, earlier I said loneliness had been my companion, but let's be honest, it was a bad friend, the kind that drags you down. It drained my spirit, killed my optimism, messed with my health, warped my perspective on everything. It twisted everything around me. And I want to promise you something. This won't be the last time I talk about loneliness. There'll be more episodes, because I know this feeling too well. And I have this deep wish, this quiet dream, to help people free themselves from the grip of loneliness. It's true. That's something I genuinely dream about. Whether it's through video, podcast, anything. As long as it helps, I'm in. Because I truly believe there are so many people out there suffering from loneliness. Right now, as we speak. And all I want is to be a small part of their healing process. To help them pick themselves back up. To lift their spirit a little. And maybe, just maybe, to help them let go of loneliness for once and for all. Now, let's dig a little deeper. Let's really break down loneliness. I believe the very first step is to identify where it's coming from. Now me, I lived with loneliness for a long time. And when I say long, I don't mean a few months. I mean years. Many, many years. And during all that time, I kept asking myself, why do I feel so lonely? These days, I've found my answer. But back then, I had no clue. I couldn't feel it. I couldn't name it. I just didn't understand where the loneliness was coming from. Because loneliness is a feeling, and it's a terrible one. You feel it deeply, but you don't always know why it's there. And that's the weird thing. Loneliness doesn't only show up when you're alone. Sometimes you're surrounded by people and still feel completely alone. You go to a party, still feel lonely. You're standing on a stage, music blaring, everyone's laughing and raising their glasses, and yet you feel empty inside. It hits you in the middle of a crowd, and it's paralyzing. You have no idea where it's coming from. And that's the worst part. It's such a strange, frustrating experience. I used to ask myself that question all the time. Why am I lonely? I came up with so many answers, but most of them didn't sit right. They felt off. I'd go through a phase thinking loneliness was caused by A. Then later I'd realize, nah, that's not it. Then it must be B, C, D, X, Y, Z.
Every phase of my life came with a different theory, but none of them ever felt fully true. And so, trying to find the root cause of my loneliness, it took up years of my life, even though I was actively searching for the answer. Until one day. Yeah, here comes the one day part. Funny how most realizations start that way, huh? But really, if you're actively searching, you will find it eventually. The real question is, are you willing to look? So, one day, I found an answer. And it was simple. Ordinary, even. But it felt true. And now, after all these years, it still holds up. For me, at least. And remember, What I'm sharing here is personal experience. This is my own journey. I'm talking to myself first. So here's what I discovered. The biggest reason for my loneliness was this. I had refused to befriend myself. It came from inside, not outside, not other people, not circumstances. It came from me rejecting myself. Let me say that again. The root of loneliness is rejecting your own self. It's refusing to connect with yourself, refusing to be your own friend, refusing to accept and understand who you really are. You've turned your back on yourself. You don't hang out with you. Instead, you're waiting for someone else to come around and hang out with you, waiting for someone to bring excitement into your life, waiting for someone to give your life meaning. And in my experience, here's what I've learned. When you don't want to be friends with yourself, when you feel like your life only has joy if someone else is there to pull you out of bed, to give it purpose, that only means one thing. Inside, you're empty, like completely empty. Because really, the one who should be living inside you is you. But you don't even want to be around yourself. You don't know who you are. You don't enjoy your own company. You don't even think there's anything in you worth liking. That emptiness, that's where it starts. And then it creates this feeling, this craving. You start to need someone. You become addicted to the idea of someone filling that gap. Addicted to a person. Addicted to attention. Addicted to something, anything from the outside world. And that addiction, that's loneliness in disguise. Let me ask you, have you ever sat there staring at your phone just waiting for a message from someone? And when they don't text back, you feel like your world is falling apart? Like you're the most miserable person on earth? I've been there. Or maybe you've been through a failure and you're just dying for someone to say, "It's okay, you'll get through this." You wait and wait for a little encouragement, but it never comes. And it leaves you feeling completely hopeless. Yeah, I've been there too. I've been lonely to the point that it stopped feeling like just a feeling. It turned into a wound. So believe me, I get it. And I realized something really important. I was the one helping create that loneliness. A big part of it was coming from me, actively, because I had rejected myself. I didn't spend time with me. I didn't encourage myself when life got hard. I didn't know how. I had never learned. All my energy was pointed outward, looking for someone, something, anything outside of me, while on the inside, I did nothing. In fact, I was sick of myself. I rejected me. I didn't understand me. I barely even knew who I was. Can you relate to that? If you're feeling lonely right now, be honest. Isn't that kind of what's going on? In those moments of loneliness, what are you actually doing? Are you really spending time with yourself? Do you stop and ask, how am I doing right now? What am I feeling? What could I do just for me that might help? And not just think about it, do something about it. Or are you just waiting, complaining, picking up your phone and scrolling and scrolling? Let me tell you straight, social media makes loneliness so much worse. Why? Because it adds a dangerous ingredient, comparison. You're already lonely, already feeling like you need someone, already waiting for something outside to make you feel full again. And then you open Facebook, you open Instagram, you open TikTok, and what do you see? Couples, vacations, people laughing, people thriving. Everyone's in love. Everyone's having fun. Everyone's living their best life. And your loneliness? it doesn't just double. It multiplies by 5, by 10. You feel stuck, but you don't pull away because you're still spending time with your phone, not with you. You've abandoned you. And that, my friends, is one of the worst things that can happen to a person. Seriously, the worst. When you're no longer connected to yourself in any way, it's terrifying. And I don't want anyone listening to this to have to go through loneliness so deep, so intense, that it leaves scars like it did for me. I really don't want that for you. Because trust me, it's awful. It's brutal. What I do hope is that this episode reaches people who are still in the early stages of loneliness, those who feel it lightly. That's who I made this for. And yes, I intentionally made this episode long, so you could really take it in, so you could understand it deeply. Understand where loneliness comes from. Understand what it does to you. And most importantly, understand how to get through it. I hope that for those of you who are just mildly lonely right now, listening to this is like taking a soft, invisible little pill. And maybe after it, you'll feel better. Or at the very least, your loneliness won't hurt your life the way it used to. If that happens, that's more than enough for me. So, we've just finished part 2 of this episode. If you've been following closely, you've probably noticed the structure. Part 1, I shared my personal experience with loneliness. Part 2, we dove into the causes of loneliness. And now comes part 3, how I healed from it, how I got out. So, how did I do it? To be honest, there was someone, well, not a person really, but something that felt like a savior to me. It was invisible, subtle, not even something you'd call a person or a thing, but it gave me this strong feeling, like I owed it a debt I still carry with me today, because I received so much from it. Real, practical, transformative help. And one of the reasons I do these podcasts, one of the reasons I make videos and share what I've learned, is because of that debt.
So what was it? It was knowledge. It was something I found in a book that changed everything for me. You see, when you're lonely, it's not just that no one is beside you. The worst part is that you're not even there for yourself. But I got lucky. During that dark phase in my life, I stumbled on an idea, something I read. Back then, I was reading like crazy, like totally out of control. Because I was so lonely, I just kept reading, grasping for something. And I came across this one idea. I don't even remember which book it came from. At the time, it didn't feel important, so I didn't pay much attention to it. But somehow, over time, that one small idea stuck with me. It stayed. Later on, I remembered it. I gave it a try, and it helped. The idea was this. Back in the day, centuries ago, great thinkers, composers, sculptors, painters, they had a little mental exercise, a very simple one. At night, they'd sit down in front of a blank sheet of paper, just a blank page, and a pen. And they'd write down every single thought that came to mind, every little thing that popped up in their head. They wrote to find inspiration for a painting or a piece of music or a sculpture. I don't really know what they were working on exactly, but the point was this: one blank page, one pen, one open mind. Whatever came to their thoughts, they wrote it down. That's it. That was their brain exercise, their creativity workout. Just me, a blank sheet of paper, and whatever thoughts happened to show up. Now, for those great artists back then, that practice was about finding creative ideas. But for me, it was about something else entirely. It was how I showed up for myself. It was how I kept myself company. It was how I started exploring my inner world. How I stopped abandoning myself when I was all alone. So I gave it a try. And yeah, turns out I was right. I didn't come up with any brilliant ideas, but the loneliness, it started to fade away. I still remember one of the first lines I ever wrote on that blank page. It was simple. I know no one's going to support me. That's it. Just that one sentence. But something weird happened. When a thought like that is just in your head, it feels far away, vague. You can't really grasp it or connect with it. But the moment you write it down, the moment you see it with your own eyes, you suddenly feel it more clearly. It's like your whole being goes, oh wow, I really think this way. I'm actually here, facing this thought. I'm acknowledging my own feelings. I'm no longer rejecting myself. I'm sitting with myself now. That's all it took. And suddenly, I didn't feel like I needed someone to comfort me anymore. Just like that. I don't know if any of you listening have ever felt that shift. That feeling of, I don't need anyone else right now, because I'm here for me. At that moment, it hit me. Wow, maybe this is actually therapeutic. That heavy, crushing feeling of loneliness, it started to blur, then fade. So I wrote a second thought. Then I read it. Then I wrote a third, and whatever popped up in my head, I wrote it down. I wasn't trying to solve anything. I wasn't trying to be productive. At the time, my head was a mess, full of anxiety, fear, stress, no answers, just a swirl of emotions. So I just kept writing. Write, read, write, read. That's how it began. Nothing fancy, nothing deep, just 15 minutes a day. Then eventually it became an hour, then 2. And slowly I began to reconnect with myself. I could name my emotions. I could identify my thoughts. I got familiar with the real me inside. And I realized this process, it was so soothing. Emotionally, it brought a kind of peace, a lightness. So I kept going, over and over again. And at some point, I don't even remember exactly when. Maybe a year later, maybe 2. I suddenly realized I don't feel lonely anymore. Because now I always show up for myself. Whenever I feel something, I sit with it. I sit with that blank page and write it down. I never leave myself hanging. And once again, I want to repeat one thought that came to me in that time. When you finally learn how to do that, to be there for yourself, you realize you don't need anyone to rescue you anymore. And I mean that in the most real, honest way. Now look, if someone does come along to help me, oh man, the gratitude I feel, it's overwhelming. I would be so thankful, forever grateful. But if no one comes, that's okay too. Because I'm no longer rejecting myself. Right now, inside me,
There's a whole world of awareness, emotions, and positive thoughts working together, lifting me up, helping me help myself. And one of the biggest things I've gained is confidence. But more importantly, that empty feeling inside me, it's gone. Completely gone. There's no emptiness anymore. So if there's no emptiness, can you even call it loneliness anymore? I don't think so. And that's when I noticed my life started to feel healthy again. Like truly healthy. And my relationships, they got better too. Because I stopped putting pressure on the people around me. I stopped being that person who was always like, "Hey, you're supposed to be there for me. Why aren't you caring about me? Can't you see I'm lonely? Are you blind?" Yeah, all of that disappeared. And when that loneliness faded, my relationships naturally became more wholesome, more peaceful. They started to improve, bit by bit, little by little. I went from being someone people might have found a little overwhelming to someone they actually wanted to be around. People wanted to talk to me more, to hang out with me, to spend time with me. Isn't that strange? It still amazes me.
So, truly, I owe so much to knowledge. Like, genuinely. And whenever I hear someone dismiss the value of books or learning, I just think to myself, they probably haven't experienced what real wisdom from a book can do. Because if I hadn't come across those ideas, I honestly don't know where I'd be right now. You know what it feels like when it seems like the whole world has turned its back on you? When you have no support, no one beside you? Then let me ask you, who's going to help you? Seriously, think about it. Who? Nobody's coming. Everyone's busy with their own lives. The people who are struggling, they're busy trying to survive. The ones who are successful, they're busy trying to maintain it. Nobody has the time to drop everything and come rescue you. And if you keep waiting for someone to swoop in like a hero, it's not going to happen. Even if someone does show up to help, it'll only be partial. They might carry a little bit of your weight, but they can't carry all of it. You have to help yourself. And if you truly want to help yourself, you'll find a way, just like I did. I devoured books like a madman, with nothing more than a tiny, desperate flicker of hope. And somehow, somewhere in one of those books, I found this one small idea. I don't even remember who said it. I don't even remember which book it was from. But that one idea, it saved me. From that seed, I started to grow new things. Mindfulness practices, ways to work through pain, ways to heal. And today I get to share that with you. Because at the root of it all is this: I reconnected with myself. I started showing up for me. I stopped rejecting who I am. And inside, I'm no longer empty. And when you're not empty inside, guess what? You're not lonely anymore. It took me a long time to get to this point, but today I can finally sit down and tell you the whole story. You might hear this and think, wait, that's it? That sounds simple. And honestly, yeah, it sounds simple. But I truly, truly hope that none of you ever have to experience the kind of loneliness I went through. Because when I was in that place, my mind went to some very dark places. There were moments, I'll be real with you, when I seriously thought about giving up entirely, about doing something irreversible. Honestly, I'm not hoping for anything huge.
I just hope that if you're someone who's been struggling with loneliness, you'll give yourself a chance. Try this for a few months. Just a few months. Try the same method I used to get through it. Don't expect miracles. Just be a little patient with yourself. Start a small habit. Instead of grabbing your phone, instead of waiting for a text, instead of scrolling or complaining about how you feel, just sit down. Grab a piece of paper. If you like pretty things, maybe get a nice notebook. Buy yourself a good pen. Make it feel special if that helps. Make this a little ritual for you. But most importantly, don't forget what really matters. What's the key? Whatever thoughts are floating in your head, write them down. All of them. Then read them back to yourself. That's the first step in no longer abandoning yourself. And once you stop abandoning yourself, you'll stop feeling so empty inside. Because from now on, you'll be there for you. From that small first step, healing starts to happen. Creativity starts to bloom. You'll begin to explore your inner world in a whole new way. And whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, honestly, it doesn't matter. Because no matter what your personality is, you still have to be present with yourself. So don't worry, this practice is for extroverts too. And please don't let yourself stay lonely, okay? You're lonely because you've been neglecting yourself. But once you stop doing that, once you really start being there for you, that heavy loneliness starts to shrink. It gets softer, lighter, almost like cotton. And I want to say it again. With all the honesty in my heart, these days, I don't feel lonely anymore. Or if I do, it doesn't affect me the way it used to. It has no power over me now. And that's the truth. So yeah, this episode, I poured a lot of heart into it. A lot of emotion, a lot of care. Because I truly want good things for you. I don't want loneliness to mess up your life. I don't want it to steal your peace. And if you can, just turn that loneliness into dust. Brush it off. You can do that. I'm telling you this as someone who's done it. All right, I won't drag this out any longer. It's time to wrap up so you can go spend some time with yourself. Thank you so much for listening. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next episode.